Increasingly, we live in a world where image is everything. How we look on a daily basis rules our lives. But is it really such a privilege to be one of the models on the catwalk? Or is the premium of skinniness, youth and beauty a harmful idea? Over the past 6 months, I've been taking a look into the unique world a model has to live in.
You're definitely not a real person. You're sort of just, you are a coat hanger. A lot of people in the industry like to call it that. But they use that word as if it's like a glamorous fashion statement. And it really isn't, because you can do shoots that your body and your looks and everything about you is just completely abused.
Don't eat that, have a cigarette instead. I wasn't a smoker, so for me that was quite a wrong thing to do.
The Clothes Show Live sees thousands of girls flooding through their doors every year with the hope of being scouted. But what is it that attracts so many girls to the industry?
If I was to be famous and be on catwalk, my life would be like the best life I've ever had.
Do you think it would be like a celebrity life?
Yeah.
I decided when I wanted to be a model because I just saw how it changed Jasmine's life, and I wanted to do that myself. And from starting modelling, you get people interested in you, and then you get to do all pageants, which gets scouts liking you and stuff. And when that happens, you go further up and further up into something massive.
Walking down the catwalk is something Poppy and Jasmine could only dream of doing. But is it really such a good aspiration to have? What I want to know is, what is life really like for that girl on the front cover of Vogue?
I did a shoot for Vogue, and at the time when you are young and you don't really know any different, you think, oh yeah, it's Vogue, I have to do what they say, I have to do it because this could make my career. So they wanted to dye my hair blonde, which they did, and it completely burnt all my hair out, and it took me 2 years to grow my hair back. Lost a lot of work because I hardly had any hair. And yeah, it's things like that you think it's glamorous, and when you see the final image of what I did do for the Vogue shoot, it looks great. You would not know that behind that, not only was I not paid enough to have lost all my hair for 2 years, but also it wasn't as great as I thought it was going to be. And I think this is the message we need to get out to people, is that it's not glamorous. It's not what it looks like on the magazines. That is a few people that sort of make it to the top and do make the money, and then it sets the standard for everyone else to think that's what I could have, that's what I can be if I do well.
In her youth, Ida was a sportswear model, but since having children, she's given up the career to be a full-time mum.
You try very hard to fit in, and try very hard to be the thinnest and the best at what you're doing, and being the best looking but with a bit of edge. But you're also dealing with all the other things that you got on in your early teens as a girl, trying to find what you want to do, trying to find who you are. But I think that was probably one of the hardest things, really.
And how old were you when that happened?
So I was about 16 when that started to kick in. I was quite severely anorexic anyway, so and became anorexic when I was about 13, 14, somewhere about then. All your role models in the modelling industry are very, very thin. My downfall was that I was very short, so the thinner I was, the better for me, because I couldn't quite make it up with my length, so I had to be incredibly thin in order to get work, basically.
This is Gabby Boyle. In her youth, she was the face of L'Oreal and Max Factor. But after being sexually abused by a photographer, she decided to leave the industry behind.
It's not glamorous, it's bloody hard work. You do a lot of unpaid work, you do a lot of looking for work. You're open to abuse left, right and centre in every direction. No, I wouldn't call it glamorous. If models aren't actually raped, they're coerced with tremendous force. You'll never work in the industry again if you don't. That's the main sort of threat that you get. It's always been a difficult industry.
Do you think it still is a difficult industry?
I think it always will be.
I came into this industry a lot later in life, and I think that served me well, because I kind of went into it knowing who I was, having my head screwed on, and wasn't interested in the party scene or the drug scene. But when you all of a sudden have to be part of that as part of your job, because everyone that's going to hire you is in those scenes, it's impossible to sort of avoid, and it was exhausting. And I sort of came away from there being like, oh, I've worked so hard the last 3 years to get to that point, and now I'm finally here, and I'm like, it wasn't worth it.
George Hammond is a male model. After being scouted last year on the Tube, his career has kick-started, and he has walked down the catwalk in Milan, New York and London. I've been speaking to him to find out just how different the industry is for men.
The thing I find hard with the industry as a whole is the inconsistency with the work. So you can go weeks and weeks without getting any paid work, because all the editorial shoots are all free of charge and unpaid. But I mean, the money for women's 10 times what a man can earn. So I guess in that sense it's a lot different. The whole industry was stemmed from women. I mean, only since David Gandy, I guess, has the man sort of got celebrity status out of doing it. But yeah, I guess there's a bigger demand for women, so they get paid more.
In an attempt to try and support the models who have been exposed to abuse, Natalie has joined the Models Network. Formed last year, it is the only union in the world dedicated to protecting working models.
They were responsible for making it illegal that anyone under the age of 16 can't be in London Fashion Week. So if anyone under the age of 16 is on the runway at London Fashion Week, that is illegal. They protect minimum wage pay, so everyone, all of the models on London Fashion Week have to be paid at least minimum wage, because a lot of models are asked or required to walk for free to build their portfolio.
Despite the changes made to London Fashion Week by the Models Network, the general opinion from them and other models is that more needs to be done, and this can only come from tighter legislation that will focus directly on the modelling industry.
I think it does need to be legislation. Yeah, and that is what we're trying to work towards at the minute. We need an actual court case. We need people to hear what's going on in, you know, the underground of the industry that no one's talking about, so that we can get court cases that make people think, oh, okay, they mean business.
The model industry will always be what it is, unfortunately, and I think that you will forever and a day have incredibly thin people on the catwalk, because that's how the designers want their clothes to hang, which is really sad, really, because average person isn't like that.
You've only got to look at the history of people like Kate Moss to know how dangerous it is in terms of drugs and alcohol.
You will only ever hear the stories of, you know, Naomi Campbell, Candice Swanepoel, Alessandra Ambrosio. You will only ever hear them say, yeah, I have a great life, totally worth it. Yeah, for you, because you're the 1% out of the 100 that did get lucky.
With passion, drive and ambition, the Models Network are finally starting to change things. But it's a slow process, and many models are still exposed to abuse and experiencing unfair working conditions. This is the ugly truth behind what looks like a beautiful career.
Drifting apart, getting harder to hold you. Days getting dark and the nights are growing cold. Are we burning out? Swept out of sight, rolling out on an ocean. Let's cut off